So Bitcoin dropped to the lowest point it's been since June, taking XRP with it and bringing the fear and greed index to extreme fear. The market is panicking, no one knows what to do, and everyone is wondering what is going to happen next. Right now, we know that the market is in fear, right? Extreme fear. We know that $1.37 billion of long positions was just liquidated in the last 24 hours, showing us that anyone who was still left even a little bit bullish was mostly annihilated from the market. So extreme fear, loads of longs that were left annihilated, and right now, tons of short positions piling into the market. In fact, $18.2 billion worth of shorts with almost no longs. And if we zoom into XRP here, we can see there are almost $1 billion worth of short positions and almost no longs. This shows us that the market is extremely fearful. It thinks that overall crypto will go down, and the market is betting on it. And what we see when the market thinks one way is normally the opposite to happen. So with that said, currently, I don't actually have any XRP leverage trades open because they were stopped out on the way down. That's just something that I have to accept as a trader in this market. However, I do have my substantial spot bag still in its entirety, right? Apart from the profit I took back here when we had this first move at about $2.75, right? This is what I shared with you guys. The first time I sold on the spot market for a long time, but this is the part that you need to understand, right? No one knows for sure what will happen. So what we have to have is a strategy and then projects, companies, assets that we actually believe in. Now, with that basket of assets, I buy them on the spot market, I buy them low leverage, and I also buy them high leverage. That gives me different time frames in which I can trade them, right? On the spot market, it's a longer term swing trade for years. That's how long I've been holding my XRP, for literally years. Bull and bear markets, I've been holding it, and I think it's going to pay off. We have had explosive growth that no one seems to care about in a moment like this. But XRP is still up from where my long-term accumulation zone is, about, 348%. Nothing like crazy, but that's 34 times what the average move in a year in the S&P 500 does. Okay, so I know that people don't want to hear that. They don't care about that. But that's what I'm seeing, because I'm also an investor in the S&P 500. That was down 1%. But this crash right here was an amazing opportunity, right? 21%. This is an asset class that I believe in, an asset that I believe in, the S&P 500, a basket of stocks. And you could say, well, this is a completely different asset to XRP. And I would say, yes, of course it is. It's completely different to Bitcoin. It's completely different to gold. But that's why a diverse portfolio. So I've done my research. I understand what I hold. And in moments like today, right? This was a few months ago, but moments like today where Bitcoin comes crashing down like this and where XRP comes crashing down like this, I can sit comfortable knowing that I've done my research, and this is one of the bets that I'm willing to take. So if you're willing to take this bet, guys, I have some information for you, all right? So this is Raoul Pal. I know no one wants to hear bullish ideas and everyone is scared and wants to fling poo at each other, but the road to Valhalla is getting very close. If global liquidity is the single most dominant macro factor, then there must be a focus on that. Remember, the only game in town is rolling 10 trillion in debt, and everything else is sideshow. This is the game for the next 12 months. Currently, the government shutdown has forced a sharp tightening of liquidity as the TGA builds up and there is nowhere to spend it. This is not offset by the ability to drain the reserve repo. And QT drains it further. This is hitting markets, and in particular crypto, which is the most liquidity driven. TradFi asset managers have had one of the worst years of performance, V's benchmark, and are now having to chase markets, and that is allowing tech to be more stable than crypto. 401k flows help too. If this liquidity drain keeps going longer, stocks will get hard too. However, as soon as the government shutdown ends, the Treasury begins spending $250 billion to $350 billion in a couple of months. QT, which is quantitative tightening, ends, and the balance sheet technically expands. The dollar will likely begin to weaken again as liquidity begins to flow. Tariff negotiations will have largely been completed, removing uncertainty. The ongoing bill issuance increases, adding more liquidity via bank balance sheets. Ongoing rate cuts will have economic weakness from the shutdown that will add to the evidence that rates need to come down lower. But no, there is no recession. SLR changes to free up more banks' balance sheets, allowing for credit expansion. The Clarity Act will get passed. The big, beautiful bill kicks in, and China will continue to expand their balance sheet. Japan will work to strengthen the yen and also fiscally stimulate. The ISM will rise as rates fall and tariff uncertainty drops. You will just need to get through the window of pain, and the liquidity flood lies ahead. Always remember the don't F this up rules and wait the volatility out. Drawdowns like this are commonplace in bull markets, and their job is to test your faith. He says, Raoul Pal says, buy the dip if you can. When number goes up, all number go up. This is the global liquidity index. All right. So guys, there is still some hope in this market. If you have been shaken out, it's okay. Stay out. If you decided that now is the time for you to sell, then it's time to stay out and wait to see what happens. Maybe you end up being right and I end up being incorrect, which is fine, because if I'm incorrect, prices go down and I get to accumulate more in the spot market. Because one thing that you have to remember, guys, is everyone wants to tell you, right, that bear markets last for years and years and years. From the very high of Bitcoin to the very, very low, it was 367 days. So 1 year. Yes, altcoins are different. Yes, things like XRP are different. Yes, we were sideways for actually so long, but this is 2021. The high to the low was 424 days. It did travel sideways for about 2 more years from there, but the low was in. So if you bought on this day and then continued to buy, number would have steadily gone up until an explosion here. But people are conditioned to expect huge, ungodly gains in the matter of days, minutes, weeks, whatever it is. And they're not getting that this time, so everyone is angry. That's not how I look at crypto. That's not how I behave. And also, I don't trade with emotions. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.